Hi everybody, welcome to OOC. I'm your host, the Faulty DM, and today I want to talk to you guys about current events, and more specifically, how I use current events in my games to give myself some inspiration to create really cool backstories for characters, settings, and even create quests to send the players on. So obviously, if I'm talking about players, I mean both PCs and NPCs. So when I say games, I'm kind of talking from the perspective of both the DM and the player. But anyway, so the reason I think this is a really good idea, or a really cool idea at least, is that it's a way to take something from real life and to put it into a fantasy game. And in that transition, there's almost an infinite number of possibilities, and you can just let your imagination run wild. It's such a small experiment that you can run by yourself, and you can just keep coming up with ideas on how you can use a single current event to create multiple strings of backstories of setting, dressing, and all kinds of other stuff. And it doesn't matter the type of current event you use. For example, you can take something morbid and turn it into something fun, depending on how you feel about that. But you could also take something like the business current events and turn it into something fun. You can take the business events that are boring and turn them into something serious. You can take a lot of different things and convert them into a fantasy format and completely change what that current event is, so that the two things are almost completely uncomparable. And I do it a lot when I'm thinking about different kingdoms and how I want them to feel. I typically go and I think about what's going on in real life and how I can relate or convey those kind of emotions there, which brings me to my next point, which is you always want your current events to be relatable. I know a lot of people want to take or not really current events, but events that have happened in the past and try to convert them over. But the problem is that when you do that, you don't actually have an emotional connection to that thing. You don't actually know what it would feel like to be in those situations. So I typically try to stay close to things that I can relate to. So, for example, I'm a black guy, so I can relate to race issues in America. So that's something that I can put into a game and try to convey those emotions as honestly as possible. And that's really good for storytelling, because the more honest you are with how you can convey emotions, the easier it'll be for everybody else to relate to it. So not just to say that if you're a white guy you can't do race relations, but it's something that you should be able to have a response to, something that you should be able to dig into and remember how you felt about it, even if it's something stupid, again, like business stuff. If you thought it was boring, then you can dress it up to feel boring, like something in the background that's going on that's really important, but over the characters' heads or over everyone else's heads. Like if you're the DM and you're trying to make business stuff happen and you're not really a business guy, then you can actually convey through an NPC how over his head it goes, how it doesn't even matter. It's just something that happens. So I'm going to give you an example of one current event that I'm going to use in 3 different ways. And it's going to be something super boring, not anything morbid or anything. That way you guys can see how to take the most basic of current events and turn it into something, completely unrecognizable, organic, and original. So here we go. The current event that I looked up was something about America and how we are recovering, or how we're doing a job recovery. So we have restored over 200,000 jobs from April to May, I think. The months could be different. It's been a while since I looked into it, but the idea is that we're going through a job recovery right now, and our economy is starting to kind of rebound, right? So people are getting jobs. Everybody is feeling a lot more happy. So the first thing I'm going to do is doing setting dressing. So I'm going to take a kingdom in my setting and I'm going to apply this to that thing. Now the kingdom is called Barkton, and here we go. So in Barkton, they for the last decades, they've been struggling with an economic downfall due to the creation of the Warforged. Now, the Warforged, outside of war and battle and stuff, are kind of taken advantage of because they just want to feel useful, so they take whatever money they get paid, which is normally underpaying them, and they replace labor workers for the most part, doing basic things like carrying heavy loads and stuff like that, because they don't need to eat, sleep, or anything like that, so you don't have to pay any extra expenses for the Warforged. Now, this puts the average labor worker in a very bad position because it makes it really hard for the poor people to get jobs, which really hurts the economy, since the Warforged aren't actually buying anything because they don't need anything. Because they're not consuming food, because they're not consuming shelter, they're not actually adding to the economy in any real useful way. So, Barkton has been kind of struggling with this for a while now, and there's been really high tension between average workers and the Warforged. So the Barkton King, or the new Barkton King, the first things that he did when he came into his position is he tried to fix this, and he tried to fix this in 3 different ways. And the ways that he tried to fix this is A, he created a minimum wage law. So you can call it whatever act you could think of, but it's pretty much a minimum wage law. And what this does is it creates it completely shatters the gap between the Warforged and the average worker, and gives the average worker a better opportunity to get the job as much as the Warforged, because you have to pay the Warforged the exact same amount as the average worker. So although it doesn't guarantee average workers jobs over Warforged, it gives them a better opportunity to get it. The other thing that he did was he created, using a very simple tax system that mostly taxes the rich, he created free education for those who are pursuing magic. So if you want to become a wizard in this kingdom, you can actually go to school for free using the tax system. Now, what this does is it creates skilled workers in magic fields, and magic fields can be very prosperous if you're becoming a potion maker, or a weapon enchanter, or something like that is needed on a day-to-day basis. So that brings in a good amount of money to both the workers and to the kingdom itself, because people are coming there to buy their magical goods. The third thing that he did, and people would probably argue that this is the biggest thing, is that he created what he calls the expansion project, which is he's trying to expand the kingdom in preparation for more people to live there. And in order to do that, he's created an adventures league. And what this league is pretty much warriors, fighters, mercenaries that pretty much get paid to go out and hunt monsters that dwell in the forest and the surrounding lands of the kingdom. Now, when they do this, they make it safer for labor workers and blacksmith and architects to come in and start expanding the kingdom that way, which creates a slew of jobs, because you need a whole bunch of different people from a whole bunch of different skill sets, including unskilled people that can just dedicate their time to slaying monsters. So these 3 things have created a huge job recovery for the kingdom itself, and that's really a really good thing for that kingdom. Now, that's just the first one. And again, that's taking a current event that's as simple as, they've restored 200 jobs to America by offering more jobs somehow, and then applying it to a fantasy thing. So now you have the relationship between the Warforged that's being fixed, you have the Adventurers League that's out slaying monsters, and you have free magical education in this one kingdom. And you can go ahead and think about how that would affect the surrounding nations, and you can just keep going off of that, all based on one current event, and that's a huge deal. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same current event and apply it to a character background. So this character is called Eric Weiser, and he is a dwarven warlock, or I think I'm going to make him a wizard instead of a warlock. So here's the thing. Eric's story starts with his father, and his father lives in this town that is it was supposed to be one of those towns that got really popular due to the highway the dwarves were carving in the mountains that would lead from one kingdom in the mountains to another kingdom in the mountains, and this town was located directly between them. However, during a rock slide, it collapsed a tunnel on one side, which made the road completely useless, which made the town useless, which meant everybody that was mining there, that was preparing to give goods and stuff like that, ended up just leaving, except for Eric's father. So Eric's father and his mother stayed, and they continued to mine until they found an adamantine rich vein. And this restored the town because everybody started coming here to help mine the adamantine ore there, and just keep pulling stuff out there, which rejuvenated everything, which created huge job recovery. The problem was that when Eric was he and his father had some disputes because he wanted to be a wizard and his father wanted him to be a miner, so ultimately he became a miner. But one day his father actually stumbled into a deeper part of the vein, and he found that this adamantine was actually cursed. And what it did was, as you mined it, it made you sicker and sicker, and as you became sicker, you started to deteriorate mentally, and you started to go crazy. So all of these dwarves were starting to give away all of this adamantine, this cursed adamantine ore, and the effects were slowly infecting the entire mountain. So Eric has pretty much left this mountain in search of a magical way to solve this, to fix this, or to dispel the magic, since he's too weak to do it. So he's leaving this mountain in search of some kind of secret and some kind of knowledge or education that he can get that will help him fix his family and fix the dwarves that dwell in this mountain. So there you go. That's a cool character background, just based on, based loosely on job recovery. So that's another thing. The last thing is a quest that you can send the players on. So here's the quest. The quest starts with the players receiving a letter from the town of Scarlet. And the players know that the town of Scarlet is this old town that used to be all mages that used to live there and create all kinds of magical items. But after the Great War between the surrounding nations, the weave was severed. And because the weave was severed in that location, all the mages kind of left the town because obviously they can't use magic there. But a few mages have stayed and have kind of just tried to hold on to their old lives as best they could. One mage is an archmage that everyone calls the mayor, and he's the one that has sent these letters of summons to these players. When the players get here, this guy tells them that he may have a way to restore the town to what it once was by sending them on some magical quest to retrieve a dragon's gem out in some Netherlands somewhere, where if they get it, it'll restore the kingdom's veil. It'll completely fix the weave so that they can practice magic again there, which he hopes will bring back wizards. So not as detailed as the others, but quests should never be super detailed. They should always be vague, because when you send them out there, as they're going and doing stuff, you can think about more ideas that would be interesting for them to do there. But yeah, those are three basic ideas from one really, really simple current event. And let's be honest, it was kind of a boring current event, something that you would probably pass over in a newspaper or an article or even browsing the internet. It's not something that would catch your eye. It doesn't have people dying in it. It's just something interesting that you can use in your games in any way. Like I just showed, these are only 3 ways. You could probably use them for multiple ways to flesh out multiple things. You could probably flesh out items like this. For instance, that crystal, what kind of crystal is that can lead to, a growth in jobs? What kind of industry could lead to a growth of jobs? Anything basic like that. And you can use any current event. So I encourage you guys to go out and, look into current events and do this. In fact, that is the challenge that I'm going to give to you guys. So what I would like everybody to do, if you'd like, is to find a current event and just write something from it. Write out a character thing, write out a setting dressing, or come up with a cool quest based on a current event, and just leave what you've done in the comments below, and I'll read all of them. And in my next video, I'll post the top ones that were the best, or that I thought were the most interesting. So yeah, if you guys like this video and you'd like to see more, like and subscribe. Thanks guys. Bye.